Welcome to the Property Investor Playbook. I'm Lara.
And I'm Daniel. We're going to show you step by step how you can grow your wealth.
Welcome back, Daniel.
I'm back.
We had a short and sweet episode today, little Q&A with you.
Yeah, it was fun actually. It was a little game about equity. That's the flavor of the podcast, I assume.
Yes, it is. What's the game?
You know, I like playing games. The game is understanding how you can make money and get rich. Like, fingers crossed.
Build wealth, yeah.
Build wealth. Start your little journey. See how you can up your level. Get to level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and buy as many properties as you can.
We need to do that. We need to gamify it. Definitely.
I like it.
We do that with my team. We have a tool that we use for some of our content writing, and it scores you out of 100 and goes green when you get to a certain level.
I need that competition. It's like those games when you play on your computer. How fast can you type?
Yeah.
Like, I need that. So we should do that for property.
Definitely.
That'd be good.
We jump into a few questions with you, Dan, about equity and, what is equity and how people can take out equity.
Yep.
And then what they should do with it as a smart investment. So it'll be a really interesting one to dive into.
Put your seatbelts on, get your pen ready or your digital tab, and let's go.
All right, let's go. Hi, Daniel.
Miss Lara, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Always fantastic. Never a dull day in beautiful paradise.
Good to hear it.
It's the only way. It's the only way. What do we have in plan for today?
Today it's just the two of us.
Okay. Fun.
No guest,
Fun.
just us. I thought we might do a little Q&A with you.
Can we play some games as well?
What are we playing?
Ask away. I'm sure we'll make a game as we go.
You can come up with the game. No worries.
Done.
No, after talking with you and the team a couple of
Yep.
times this week, there was kind of an overarching theme of equity.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't know what equity is,
Yep.
or don't know that they have equity available to them or how to use it. So I thought this would be a good opportunity, since
Sure.
it is just the two of us, to go through what equity is, how people can use it, how we can help them use it, and go from there.
Let's kick it.
So let's start off with the basics.
Okay.
What is equity and how do you define equity?
All right. I think the easiest way to explain equity without overcomplicating it, equity is the value you have in your home minus your debt, your liability. So equity is as good as cash. So you may have, say for example, your home is worth $1 million, but you have 200K of a mortgage on it. You could potentially access up to 800K or maybe a bit less around that, and it is as good as cash. You could use it to buy another property, buy a car, go on a holiday.
Mm-hmm.
I think people feel like they have to sell their home to access their equity, but talk to your banker, your broker, whoever your support system is. Equity can be used for whatever you like, as long as you're not doing something silly with it. Let's put that out there.
Yeah.
But it's just equity is as good as cash. It's cash sitting in your property.
Yeah, right.
Best way to
So
describe it.
equity is the value of your property less
The debt.
any debt that you have on
Correct.
it. Perfect.
So not
Okay.
complicated, as simple as that.
Amazing. And there's a term that's thrown around a lot. What is usable equity then? And is
Okay.
there a difference between usable equity and
Yeah.
equity that you just explained?
Okay. So we explained equity. Now, you need to access the equity, you need the banks, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So there's about 80, 90 of these different little banks, lenders, financial institutions. You could access potentially up to 90% equity, 95% if it's own occupier, and some other little tips and tricks in the mortgage world. But you could access, let's just use for this example, up to 90% inclusive of LMI. You can go down to 80% without any LMI. So we want to keep it basic for this explanation.
Yeah.
You can go up to 80% of your mortgage, of your home's value, and they pay no limits of mortgage insurance, which is that insurance you pay to access a bit more equity. So up to 80%, banks will lend you of your equity. If you want to go a bit over that, you want that 10% more for whatever reason, which it can be good if you use it correctly, you may need to pay a little lender's mortgage insurance fee, which your banker can kind of elaborate on that a bit further.
Okay. Could you give maybe a bit of a mathematical breakdown or an example of how we would calculate usable equity then?
Sure, yeah. So let's just say you have a home paid off. So it's 800K. Paid off home, you want to access all your equity. So you can access up to 80% of the equity, so 800K worth. So if your property is worth $1 million, nothing owing on it, 80% of that property's value is $800,000, correct?
Yeah.
So you could access the usable equity in your property, and a lot of banks will just give you that equity, and you could use it to buy another property. start a business venture, obviously there's like restrictions. You may need to provide a contract of sale.
Yeah.
You may need to adhere to the bank's conditions, but that's your usable equity. You could go up to 80% of your property's value and use that for your next purchase. Hopefully.
Okay. So if let's stick with the same numbers then. If we had $1 million property.
Yep.
And 80% of that is obviously 800,000. If I still had, let's say, 500,000 owing to the bank already, then the difference is 300. So I can use $300,000 of usable equity.
Perfect.
Perfect.
That's it.
I love round numbers.
I guess sometimes when you explain it, your mortgage isn't going to be perfect. Like you're going to value your home and be 1.25, 1.44, 740. So using
and
that
then you probably owe like 498,000.
Exactly. So just the message that we want to portray across, that equity is as good as cash in your property. So use it, buy property, get rich.
Yeah, perfect. How should people start to evaluate their situation on whether they have equity or if they have enough equity? What should they start to look at for themselves?
Okay, I guess the best way for me to answer that question is I'll tell you like the last 2-3 people who I've spoken with, same exact scenario. They don't know how much equity they have in their home. So where do they start? First, people just go on, they just Google their property address, they go on realestate.com, domain.com, and this kind of tool comes up. Little do you know, if you speak to the brokers, or the ones that we use do it quite well, that know how to value your property correctly, you may have maybe 100, 200, 300K more in some circumstances.
Yeah.
Let's use my last 2 clients, husband and wife, mid-40s. They had a property southwest Sydney. The RP data or the realestate.com valuation tool came up at about 1.25 mil, I believe it was. I think it was 1.25. Went to our brokers because I want to kind of access that equity. All of a sudden, the banking valuations, went to 2 banks, 1.4, 1.45.
Wow.
All of a sudden, they can access a bit more equity. So that purchase that they really wanted, they can finally get to it. But they would have never known if they didn't put themselves in that position to kind of get towards that. So when you're just Googling yourself or you're doing your research, you may feel like it is the right way. Just speak to that professional. They will know exactly how they can, the little tips and tricks to get you that valuation at the rate that you want it to be.
Yeah.
So obviously it's all depending on the market, conditions, your property, all those kind of little concerns. But you need to speak to your support network and let them do the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah.
But people don't know where to start. So I guess first thing I would do, just assess them as much as they can, write the information down, tell them, speak to the broker, tell them this is what I want to do. Go to the broker, banker, whoever you use, and give it a shot from there.
Okay. And if they're, I guess, getting a valuation of their home to get more information about how much equity they have, will that impact their credit score or, impact their finances at all?
So a valuation doesn't impact your credit. So I would highly recommend before you even go into the mortgage process of it, you need to know what value you can get in your home.
Yeah.
If you're only going to get, say, 800K, but you owe 700K, you may not have any much usable equity, and you may not get that strategy that you want to implement. So I would 100% advise to get a valuation first. Know your funding position, because that's the most important thing. If you know what your funding position is, then you can work backwards from there saying, okay, perfect. I need X amount of dollars to buy this property, and this is how much money I'll have left in my offset account. This is what I need for stamp duty, etc. So working backwards.
What do you mean by funding position?
Okay. You need to know a lot of jargon. So if you're buying a property, you need to know how much the costs are associated with the next property you're purchasing, but even yourself. So let's use that $1 million property as an example again.
Yeah.
If you're going to get 80% of that property out and it's completely paid off, you have $800,000 that you could use for that next property, correct?
Yeah.
Now, that your funding position for that property there in your next purchase, $800,000. Now, the next property, let's just say, for example, is $1 million as well, and you need to put 80% down plus stamp duty. You have enough for the 80%, which is the $800,000, correct? But then you need costs for associated stamp duty, solicitor costs, if there's any other additional costs, pests and building reports. So you need to ensure that your funding position is correct, so then your next purchase can be seamless. So when you hear a lot of those bad news stories where, oh my goodness, my property was so hard to settle, or this was such a daunting experience, it's just because they didn't get their funding position right from the get-go. So you need to understand all the fees and charges associated with the actual purchase. It's not just your deposit and that's it, go to the bank. There's external costs. Like you want to make sure you know if there's a valuation fee, if there is maybe a compliance fee for a certain property you're purchasing, if you need to register it, whatever it may be. So understand your funding position, so all the costs associated with it. So you're going to get no kind of kind of start shooting at you saying, oh my goodness, I got to pay another 4, 5, 10 grand. I'm stuck one day before settlement. They start asking your friends or your family, your mum and dad, I need more money. That could make the whole task a bit more daunting. If that makes sense.
Have you seen that happen where people haven't realized, I guess, they need stamp duty costs out of pocket in cash or, you know, whatever other fees they might need? Have you seen that firsthand?
Yeah, like when I first got into this journey, so when I just got into the finance world when I first started, people just thought that it was just a deposit, that's all you needed. And I was trying to understand, everyone was sometimes a bit frustrated if their buying process, and that's when prices were quite low, rates were quite good as well. I saw every second client didn't know that there was more cost to it. They would forget to pay the solicitor. The solicitor will sometimes hold something down, or they didn't go to the bank and send the right check over or transfer the right money. So it's daunting. 100%, I've seen it happen all the time. Now, working backwards, I've kind of found the right support network and brokers who know it from the get-go. So yeah, they may take an hour extra of paperwork or talking, but guess what? Your whole process will be so seamless that you want to go back again. You want to give it a go again. You want to invest again. So I guess, I used nearly every second client, third client used to have that daunting experience. I'm sure if you ask any of our friends and family or social bubble, how was your home buyer journey been? How was the loan process been? You may get a 50% satisfaction rate saying, oh yeah, it was scary. Oh yeah, I had to go through this. I never knew I had to do this. So I guess the right people can send you a long way.
Are there any other considerations people should think about before taking equity out of their property?
I would say just get your strategy right. Like, you have money. It's as good as cash. You can have fun with the money. Just make sure you know what you want to do with the money. So don't just go to your banker broker saying, yeah, give me all the money out as I can. You can put yourself down a financial spiral downwards. Just kind of understand what you want to do with the money, where do you want to utilize it, and what are you going to buy it, and how are you going to make more money in return. So I like that. So my biggest thing is, debt is a good thing. People may say the opposite, but if you have debt to buy something else and it's an asset class behind that debt, there's nothing bad about it. I'm not saying credit cards and even certain car loans, they're bad debt because depreciating assets or no asset behind it, so that's debt you got to pay regardless. But with home property, it's an asset that's always appreciating, so you can obviously have benefits in the long term. So that debt, that 800k debt that you have in that property in 10 years time might be a 1.6 mil valuation where you can access even more equity. So you put yourself in a position to be lucky. So that's what I would say.
You kind of answered my next question, but I was going to ask what would be some smart ways that you could invest, which you obviously already discussed.
It's all about putting yourself in that situation to begin with. Yes, it's scary, but the rewards will come. Just give yourself some faith and clarity, but they'll definitely come. Property has never let anyone down in Australia. I don't know if anyone's got some bad stories. I'm sure someone might have said I couldn't afford it back then. Rates were high. My position, income financially was bad. They're the stories that you hear, but every asset that person's ever bought 10, even 4 years ago, it's always gone up in value by a big margin.
Right. I think I need to start looking at taking some equity out of my own property.
Go.
What would be, I guess, like your top 3 pieces of advice for homeowners who already own their own home and most likely have equity to take out?
Start planning. Like, sit down with these property strategists, your financial planners. Like, start sitting down with them and plan. You may be in a good position now where your property's worth 1.2 mil plus. You may be sitting at a 50% debt ratio, so you have not much of a mortgage owing. Don't be scared to pull that trigger and take that debt out to get some more debt. At the end of the day, the pension may not be around forever. I know we probably will not be getting the pension when it's our turn. So just start using your equity position to buy something, any property you can, get your hands on it. Just make sure the structures and all that is correct. And start pushing. Like, don't be scared to take that plunge. If you're scared now, you're always going to be scared, and you're going to regret yourself in 5 years' time saying, I wish I just made that little plunge. So if you feel like you're scared, it's the right feeling to have. Just don't be afraid. Keep going along the path. Keep doing your research. Talk to someone. Don't worry about the bad news stories. Understand the risk associated with it. Talk to your bank. See what the bank has to offer and have to say. Speak to a financial planner, to a strategist, and then you'll get your answer from there.
Yeah, great. And I think on that as well, by reinvesting that money, if they choose to invest in property, they could be investing in an area that has much better capital growth.
Correct.
than where they currently live.
Correct.
You know, a lot of suburbs in Sydney, for example, might have capital growth of around 5-6%, somewhere around there if you're doing okay.
Yep.
There's suburbs in Sunshine Coast in Queensland that I think in the last 12 months from the recent data have gone up like 13-14%. So if you're taking the money out of your property here in Sydney that's still going to keep appreciating at 5%, 6%, and reinvesting that somewhere else that's going to appreciate at 12, 13, 14%, you're going to then build more equity to do the same again.
And I think that's where understanding that, like you've got that, you understood that. So if you're speaking to your partner about debt, you can kind of say like there is good ways of having debt.
Yeah.
Like you can make money off this. I guess people we don't get that learnings from school, or no one teaches us that. There's all these things online, YouTube channels that saying that you need to buy here, your property's going to double in 1 year's time, 2 years time. Like let's be real. You want a safe, slow investment. You don't want to make money quick. It makes money quick. There could be some downsides to it.
Yeah.
If you can buy something that's, again, like you said, 10 to 15% growing year on year in a growth suburb, growth corridor, why wouldn't you have that opportunity? Sydney, you're going to get some suburbs going from 4 to 8%, which is still great. Don't get me wrong. The median average value is about $1 million. In Brisbane, if you can buy a property for say 700K and it's growing by double digits, 10% year on year, guess what? In 2 years' time, you're making 140K.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, yeah? In 5 years' time, you're going to more than double that. So just don't overcomplicate it. Yeah, you're right. Stick to the data where year on year you're getting that good return.
Yeah.
And then put your money into that. You're not making a wrong decision. If you have an area where there's a train station, people living there, they're developing, so schools, communities are growing, and they're established.
Yeah.
Where is your money going wrong? Like people are always going to live there. People are going to need to rent in that area. As an investor, make that plunge. And don't forget, owner occupiers, first home buyers, if they're buying in that suburb to live in, and you're an investor buying in that suburb, you have the best of both worlds. If you can invest in an owner occupied community, I guess that's the little golden ticket. That's the little tip and trick.
Yeah. Is there a owner occupied community that you've come across recently that you're kind of keeping an eye on? Or multiple?
There's multiple. I guess the one that, again, I'm parading to the team and everyone in the office is I do enjoy the Moreton Bay region in up in Brizzy, especially the whole Narangba, Burpengary East, Morayfield, Caboolture.
Yeah.
I think there was stigma around the people there, the flooding, all that kind of stuff. I guess now, think about it. Developers will not get a approval to build anywhere where it is a flooding zone or it's a bad environment.
Yeah.
So take that little risk away. There's growth there. The hospital's getting a whole redevelopment. They're doing direct train lines all around there. They're doing all these new jobs, big commercial facilities. It's all happening. Rezoning's happening.
Yeah.
That's my go-to at the moment. Everyone who's bought there, less than 3 months have made some kind of money. So it's working for me and for my clients. I'm not going to go away from it anytime soon.
Yeah.
So I keep riding that wave until something happens. So the next one comes up.
Yeah. Have you got a client example on that point then?
We had I won't say the name, but a client who's invested with us multiple times. The second property was a dual occupancy property. So it's like a duplex. It was like a standard home, 3 bedrooms on one side, 2 bedrooms on the other side. It could be 4-1, depending on what the configuration is. They bought in January this year. So what's that, 8 months ago? For about 800K, Caboolture, about 450 square meters around that, a bit more maybe. The property, fast forward 8 months later, is now worth $1 million. Like 200K in 8 months, fantastic.
Yeah.
$1,200 a week in rental return, great. Can't complain. So that's just one good news story. So I know if that's happened less than 8 months ago, the wave is still going. There's none of this bubble's gonna burst. Like when they say bubble's gonna burst, I think what they're trying to say is if I'm going from 10% growth a year to maybe 4% growth a year.
Yeah.
But guess what? If you average it out over the next 10 years, you're gonna be above that 6.5% growth annually anyway. So
you're still not going backwards. Yeah.
He's just trying to scare us. The bubble's going to burst. Like, your property's going to go down in value. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's a property's always going to appreciate if you're in the right area.
Yeah.
You're not buying where there's silly areas such as sinking holes and no communities. Just be smart where you put your money.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing that we've looked at here with the team multiple times. You know, if you look at the graph over time from like the 60s, 70s till now, even when, you know, the GFC and COVID happened and whatnot, you look at the dip that happened and it's, you know, this big compared to the growth of the graph that's this big, but people don't look at that at the time. They're just seeing but property went down, it crashed, you know, it's not the stock market.
I think I remember, I think it was 2017, 2018, when I was heavily looking to property. Everyone was saying property's going down, like it's going down 5, 10, 15 grand. I'm like, okay. Like I was looking at the sold data and I had a house the year before, sold for $1,050,000, now sold for $985,000. I'm like, oh wow, maybe prices are going down. I bought in that market, so I was lucky. Some properties with irregular land blocks, because before that was just a big boom, kind of went down a little bit. But guess what happened the year after? Shoom.
Yeah.
Everything just went up again. So if they're ever telling you that the bubble's going to burst, all that means that growth rates will decrease slightly. But year on year, over, use historic data, every 10 years, this is how you should be calculating your risk. That's the answers, the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah.
Every 10 years, you're going to get a better result than 1 year or 1 year in 20, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have any final advice for listeners who own a property maybe and taking out equity?
Get up and go. Like you need to do something. Don't let the market swallow you up. What I mean by that, don't wait for it to be too late. So everyone says that I wish I bought this earlier, I wish I did this. For once, if you are listening to this, just pull out your phone now, start researching. Say, just Google kombucha growth last 12 months. Click on your first 2 links, have a look at it. You're going to get positive results.
Yeah.
If it's like that on your first 2 or 3 links, imagine what more you can actually unpack when you do a deep dive into it. So don't kind of get worried or scared or anything like that. Just start it. Go get a valuation, see what your property value is, see what your funding or debt position actually is now, and just run with it. Have fun. It is a fun journey.
Yeah.
We got to get away that stigma that debt is bad, property investing is bad. You can have multiple properties. You should be in that top 10% class in Australia where they have more than 2 properties. So push towards that. Like it's not scary if you have the right support system around you.
Yeah, for sure. I think the advice that we gave first home buyers on one of our recent podcasts was start saving. But in this instance, we're going to be saying start planning.
Get up and go.
Yeah. Ready, set, go.
Ready, set, wiggle.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, it was good to have a quick Q&A with you.
Thank you, Lara.
Is there anything else that your clients are asking at the moment or that you're seeing a bit of a pattern in the market?
I guess just finance. I guess finance is your biggest burden right now. You can buy anywhere if you want to buy anywhere. If you just get your financial position right, and I guess it could start from the valuation. I guess it's a smart way. If you have property now, start from the valuation. If you don't have property right now and you have savings, start from your funding position. See what your cost associated to a purchase is, and speak to your strategist or your planner. Let them help you out there. That'll be step 1.
Yeah.
Numero uno.
Yeah. Perfect.
Done.
And I mean, we don't normally plug Liviti, but Liviti can help clients with that. Sure. We've got our finance arm of the business. We've got our investment arm of the business. And yeah, that's what we do best is help clients find the option for them.
And you don't have to go out there and just say that I need to go for Liviti only. Like speak to the guys first. They may give you a strategic plan where you may not even need to go anywhere more. It's just that having that first advice it may show you a lot of value. And we've had clients who got that advice, went back 6 months, came back 6 months later. That could be an hour conversation can kind of set you forward 2 or 3 years if you just make that first commitment. Yeah.
Even if they're not quite ready to buy it right now, it's starting that conversation. Start yourself up on the right foot and get going.
Deep dive, jump.
Yeah. All right.
Perfect.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks, Lara.